Sabino Policarpo Arangugoiri, self-styled as Orangutagoiri de Sabin, was a Basque writer. He was the founder of the Basque Nationalist Party and father of Basque nationalism. He died in Sukarrieta at the age of 38 after falling ill with Addison's disease during time spent in prison. He had been charged with treason for attempting to send a telegram to President Theodore Roosevelt, in which he praised the United States for helping Cuba gain independence from Spain. Background: one of the consequences of the First Carlist War was the substitution of the ancient regime Basque home rule by limited still relevant autonomy. A majority in Navarre and the rest of the Basque districts supported the pretender to the Spanish crown Carlos V for his support to their institutions and laws. However, they were defeated in 1839, and Navarre, Biscay, Alava and Gipuzkoa were integrated into the Spanish customs system. Basque industrialists profited from privatization of exploitations and the Spanish captive market with the iron ore and the Bessemer converter, and Biscay became the Iron California. Workers from all of Spain were attracted to the area as laborers for the burgeoning industry. Arana was born in a Jaunto family from Obando, a neighborhood that had been recently incorporated into the city of Bilbao as the new extension for the growth of the industrial era. Obando was a Basque-speaking town, but following the attitudes of the elites in the area of Bilbao during this period, Basque was not transmitted to Arana's siblings within the family. Obando and its port were at the center of the Zamacolada uprising against attempts by the Spanish Premier Manuel Godoy to recruit Basques for the Spanish army, a contrafuero, a breach of basic Basque legislation. In the aftermath of the Second Carlist War, Arana attended the Jesuit school of Orduna along with his brother Luis. Orduna became a hotspot and meeting point for the pro-fueros, primeval Basque nationalists, concerned with the loss of the Basque native institutions. Arana claimed that he had a quasi-religious revelation on Easter 1882, one that he communicated to his brother Luis Arana, for then he devoted himself to the nationalist cause of Biscay, later extended to the Basque country. Ideology: he was an early defender of the use of the Basque language in all areas of society, to avoid its increasing marginalization in the face of Spanish language penetration imposed as mandatory in schooling and administration, even certain cultural events. He learned the language as a young man, but was ready to contest for a professor in Basque position at the Instituto de Bilbao, competing against Miguel de Unamuno and the winner, Resurrección María de Azcue, who became an erudite scholar of the language. He made strong effort to establish a codified orthography and grammar for the Basque language, and proposed several neologisms to replace words of Spanish origin. Some of these innovations, like the characters L and R, were ultimately not accepted in the standardization efforts for the Basque language undertaken since 1968, leading to the establishment of Standard Basque, the Escarabatua. His first published work was Bizkaia por su independencia, where he calls for the independence of the Biscay district from Castile, Spain, echoing like proposals put forward by Gipuzkoa's governmental representatives to the National Convention officials Pinet and Cavaignac in Guetaria, during the War of the Pyrenees. The document is a collection of historical events, mythical stories and sometimes inaccurate accounts of earlier battles of the ancient people of Biscay. In 1894, he founded the first center for the new nationalist party, the second oldest political party in Spain, to provide a place for gathering and proselytizing. Sabino Arana, like many Europeans of his time, believed that the essence of a country was defined by its blood or ethnic composition. In Spain, the supremacy of the Spanish race and its civilizing fighting pursuit over peoples held to be inferior was defended by the main political figures and parties, while a number of intellectuals, Spanish and even Basque, including the socialists, advocated for the extinction of the Basque language, ever more marginalized to family and informal environments. Despite his religious integrism and racist views, he is considered by many Basques to be a gadfly that sparked the movement for the cultural revival of the Basques, and for the freedom of his people. In that respect, Arana defended the constitutional foundations of the abolished Basque institutional and legal framework. The PNV, the party in power in the Basque autonomous community from the end of Francoism until 2009, developed along more nuanced and pragmatic lines in respect of religion and views on race, moving away from his most controversial ideas but not from his figure. He was a prolific writer, with over 600 journalism articles, most of them with a propaganda purpose. He liked to shock and provoke, in order to get attention from a society that he deemed unaware of its fate. There are three key aspects of Sabino Arana's political figure. He was an innovator, being the first to proclaim that the Basques are a separate race. He was not conventional conservative. He strongly opposed slavery and defended the right of South African Zulus to the land. He was an indefatigable worker, taking action in many areas. He learned the Basque language as an adult, undertook a number of activities to promote the Basque language and culture, created a political movement, and inventing the symbols used to this day not only by Basque nationalists, but other political parties and representatives also, especially in the Basque autonomous community. Another essential part of his ideology was devout Catholicism. He considered this to be an essential part of the Basque identity that contrasted with the secularism imported from other parts of Spain and abroad, along with new means of production and labor, often unprecedented immigration. However, his Basque nationalism kept him away from Carlism, that was the dominant ultra-Catholic and conservative movement in the area, and the ideology of his father. Arana and his Basque nationalist movement were persecuted for their ideas against Spanish imperialism, for which he was convicted and put a harsh time in prison, the ultimate reason for his early death by disease. In 1902, ahead of his demise, a baffling manifesto attributed to him was released, by which he relinquished the core of his ideas to everyone's surprise. The nature of this document establishing the Liga de Vascos Españolistas is still subject to debate. Whether he had sincerely changed his views or he was trying to improve the conditions of his imprisonment. Actually, just a month earlier, Arana had a telegram submitted to Theodore Roosevelt to congratulate him for his assistance in liberating Cuba. Arana's death left the question unanswered, and neither his brother Luis nor the party followed through with his proposal. Racial views. Sabino Arana, coming from a Carlist background, created a xenophobic ideology centered on the purity of the Basque race and its so-called moral supremacy over other Spaniards, anti-liberal Catholic integrism, and deep opposition to the migration of other Spaniards to the Basque country. Unlike many contemporary conservative Spanish politicians, he was against slavery in Spanish colonies such as Cuba. He was disturbed by the immigration into Basque of many workers from western and central Spain during the Industrial Revolution, into a small territory whose native political institutions had recently been suppressed, believing that their influence would result in the disappearance of the pure Basque race. He contrasted the Basque and the Maqueto Basque race. It is necessary to isolate ourselves from the Maquetos. Otherwise, in this land we walk on, it is not possible to work toward the glory of God. Biscaitara, no. 19. We, the Basques, must avoid the mortal contagion, maintain firm our faith in our ancestors and the serious religiosity that distinguishes us, and purify our customs before so healthy and exemplary, now so infected and at the point of corruption by the influence of those who have come from outside. La Patria. No. 39. It terrifies them to hear that Macitos should be driven out of towns with stones. Those people who love peace, they are those who are worthy of the hate of patriots. Biscaitara. No. 21. Every Biscaino should be anti-liberal and anti-Spanish. Biscaitara. No. 1. The mixed influence of Sabino Arana in the Basque society. Sabino Arana's ideas are considered to have spawned the Basque nationalist movement. Today, he is viewed by some as a controversial figure, due to his xenophobia and ethnocentrism and his ideas of a pure race. The Partido Nacionalista Vasco has kept only the more moderate part of his message. On the other hand, some Basques still revere him as the father of the Basque nationalist movement, who managed to start the turnaround of the decay of the Basque language and culture. Many Basque cities have streets named after him. The estate of his abandoned home is now Sabin Etxea, the EAJPNV headquarters. John Warasti has remarked that perhaps the most influential part of his heritage is the neologistic list of Basque versions of names in his Dia Nixandegi Euskatara. Instead of the traditional adaptations of Romance names, he proposed others he made up and that in his opinion were truer to the originals and adapted to the Basque phonology. For example, his brother Luis became Koldobika, from Frankish Lodwig. The traditional Peru Pelo appears became Kepa from Aramaic. He believed that the suffix "-y" was inherently feminine, and new names like Neka and Nagarbine are frequent among Basque females. Even the name of the brother-in-law of the King of Spain is Inaki Urdangaran, Inaki being Arana's alternative for Ignatius instead of the Basque traditional Inatio.